Yeah, tough loss. Let's talk. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. Let's get to it.
Anthony for three. That one goes down, and the game is tied.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
The Yankees are champions of baseball.
Shaking and baking right here on the neophyte.
U.S. trying to close the show.
She was doing a great job of feeding that. It's over.
Don't you regret not coming to the net? Don't you regret not coming to the net?
Game over. World Series over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
All right. So, tough loss, man. Tough loss last night, getting right into it. Knicks, Mavericks. It's a very deserving loss. Episode 608 here at BD4. A very deserving loss. One that, I'm kind of not glad, but, I kind of yeah, good. They don't deserve that shit because they played like garbage and they didn't really try to engage for a full 48 minutes. You can't come out with that type of low energy and expect to win the basketball game. The Knicks came out like a team whose opposition was missing their best player, and that's what exactly killed them. Dallas, being without Luka, wanted it more last night because of that. The Knicks were just way too lackadaisical. Not only were Dallas without Luka Doncic and still won the game, but they ran seven. They ran seven short last night. And they still bitched apart the Knicks for three quarters. It was embarrassing. The Knicks just unfocused, very low energy. Right out the gate, they're just coming out lazy and unfocused. Kyrie burnt them in the first quarter. Josh Green, who is a career 6 points per game role player, was all over them in the first quarter and ended up dropping 11 of his 18 points there. I don't think he missed a damn shot. It was 15-4 Mavericks after just a few minutes in. I'm trying not to sneeze here. iHeart, at the end of the first quarter, I think it was, a stupid decision to back off, was it Tim Hardaway Jr. on the final shot? And the Knicks are down 44-26 after one. Second quarter, you get some baskets from Randall and Brunson. They get it going a little bit. But then Hardaway Jr., he gets red hot. Randall comes alive in the third quarter. But so does Kyrie. He gets red hot. We'll talk on that. It's 101-86 Dallas. Enter in the fourth. Dallas ends up going up by 20 points in this period. And somehow, in the final 5 minutes of the game, the Knicks make this comeback. They make their trademark fake comeback. Grimes hits a couple of key three-pointers. Brunson hits a number of big baskets. Dante DiVincenzo with the big one. And then following that was the infamous rebound play, which we'll definitely touch on. And then that was that. The Knicks would lose from there, 128-124. Randall had 32 points to lead the team. Jalen Brunson had 30 points behind him. I don't think either of them played particularly great to their standards. I hated Randall's body language and effort in the first half of the game. I thought he was very lazy throughout defensively and on the boards, and I thought that he was very reckless on his drives. He was hit or miss, doing the whole spin and, just that bull in the china shop type of play in the first half. He was much better in the second half, where the Knicks used him as a screener for Brunson in the middle, and he found his shot too. Third quarter, Brunson, we will touch on how I thought he played. But I want to get to the first topic of the night, which is, as usual, the defense. For better or worse, tonight for worse, because last night's Knicks defense, again, I thought it was unserious, and I thought it took a large step back. So we'll talk about the defense as soon as we return from our first break here on BD4, episode 608 of the podcast. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We appreciate you sticking around and listening so far. When you have a chance, be sure to open YouTube to subscribe, like, and comment. And if you're already watching on YouTube, be sure to head over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star review. We appreciate your feedback and are always looking to improve. Now, with that all said, let's get you back to the show.
All right, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, RJ Carbone, still haven't sneezed yet. The Knicks lose 128-124 last night in Dallas with no Luka Doncic. I thought their defense was very poor. Dallas scored 128 points. They shot 50%, 42% on threes on 41 attempts, 77% at the foul line on 30 attempts. They had 27 assists versus just 10 turnovers. Kyrie Irving in particular, he had 44 points, torched them. He torched OG Anunoby. He hurt Isaiah Hartenstein. He hurt the Knicks all night off the dribble and pick and roll, Spain pick and roll, stagger screen offense, in ISO, whatever it was, he hurt them. The Knicks were very bad in ISO and one-on-one, and we'll talk about not doubling Kyrie in a second, but listen, Kyrie Irving is the basketball player, is amazing. He is one of the better all-time half-court scorers in NBA history. That's obviously not an exaggeration. He's amazing at scoring the basketball. He puts up points. He's a walking bucket, as they say. And last night he hit some very difficult, very high-level shots, contested, in traffic, that you couldn't play better defense on. Okay? So I'm not going to kill OG Anunoby and the Knicks, but my gosh, like it was hard to watch. You know, the Knicks were playing up at the level and they were hedging most of the night on pick and roll, but there were also times where they gave way too much airspace. Way too much. And I thought Isaiah Hartenstein, again, he had a tough night. There were a few times where iHeart was burnt and dropped versus either Kyrie or Tim Hardaway Jr., right? You just, when you're playing elite pull-up shooting, you have to know your personnel. Like the end of the first quarter, stupid decision to drop off Tim Hardaway Jr. there. The clock's winding down. What do you think he's going to do? Early third quarter, kind of the same thing. Kyrie Irving in semi-transition, iHeart backtracks into a drop. He pulls up, knocks down the three. Now, iHeart has been wonderful for this team. He's done a really good job on the glass. He's done a nice job defensively. Offensively, we know what he does. Dallas was running 5 out last night. There were a lot of possessions where they brought all 5 out to the perimeter. And, you know, one of Isaiah Hartenstein's weaknesses is that he's not the same on the perimeter in terms of his mobility and agility that Mitchell Robinson or even Jericho Sims is. You know, he can't move as well as they can on the perimeter. And I thought he got hurt there. I thought the Knicks were very confused on matchups last night. Like when they were getting back in transition, they did a very poor job of closing out. You know, the defense wasn't getting set enough. It wasn't getting set quick enough. And like even after made baskets, they'd get back on the other end and have problems keeping up with the pace Dallas was running at. Whether it was iHeart, Brunson, Josh Hart, nobody picked up Kyrie like they should have. Like there were way too many possessions where no one was picking up Kyrie, especially in the first half. That happened way too much. And then the third quarter comes and the Knicks allow Kyrie to go nuts. I think he dropped 20 points in the period alone. Way too much room given in the corners. I thought Julius Randle was very bad, not even bothering to close out or contest the corners. And OG Anunoby, right? We'll get to that now. Like, he's been good, man. He's been great, and I don't want to jump on him after one loss. They were 5-0 with him. But he had a tough night defensively last night. Wasn't much better offensively, but defensively he was getting picked apart by Kyrie Irving at the point of attack. Just struggling to navigate ball screen actions. Screening was giving him problems. One of the contributors for Knicks Film School that I follow, they made a good point that OG also struggled at the point of attack against Tyrese Maxey when the Knicks played Philly. So it's like, Dallas and Philly, really the only two great offenses we've seen post-trade. Do we know what OG Anunoby's limit is? Right? Do elite point guards, is that where we kind of draw the line? Is that something to just keep an eye on, right? Maybe. He can guard 1 to 5, but Maxey and Kyrie are very quick and shifty, and that's something to keep an eye on. You're playing Dallas again in about a month. Exactly. Probably a little less. I'm going to that game. So it's just, he had trouble on screens. The Knicks were just giving up switches for Kyrie way too easily versus trying to navigate around them. There are a number of times last night where Dallas ran consecutive ball screen actions on the Knicks because the Knicks kept switching it. Over and over, the next possession they'd run the same thing. The next possession they'd run another screen. And they just burnt the Knicks because the Knicks weren't adjusting on it. They were not adjusting. And it's rather than just defaulting to a switch, maybe make the effort to fight through it. It wasn't like you had Bam Adebayo setting his illegal screens out there. No, you had guys like Powell and such. So I thought OG was just a little slow getting over screens, which led to Kyrie getting into the next level and taking guys like iHeart on an island, or again, doesn't have that mobility to keep up with the Kyrie. So the Knicks' plan of attack last night defensively was very reliant on OG Anunoby navigating ball screens. So him not having the same zip and the same impact on them kind of domino affected the rest of the defense. So yeah, going forward from this defense, I got to see what this defense looks like against elite offenses, elite competition, before I kind of overreact with joy like we've been. I may have gotten ahead of myself. Maybe not. I still think they can be a top 10 defense, but I'm going to try to hold back when we're playing dog shit teams on the optimism. Just we're not going to be facing Jordan Poole in the playoffs, or Mikal Bridges won't be the best offensive weapon out there in the playoffs. It's going to be Giannis. It's going to be Dame, Tatum, Embiid. You still have another game against Kyrie next month. So, I just need to see what the Knicks defense looks like against those offenses. 6 games in under OG, 2 of them against good offenses. You beat Philly, held them to 92 in their own home. Awesome. You gave up almost 130 to Dallas last night without Luka. So I got to see what that looks like. While we're talking about defense, the rebounding last night, somehow the Knicks found a way to out-rebound Dallas. But it was very bad down the stretch in crunch time, to nobody's shock. Because the Knicks, while they have the best, or while they are the 5th best rebounding team in the NBA, you filter that out and you go to rebounds per game in crunch time, final 5 minutes of a 5-point game, the Knicks are dead last. They're 30th. So they're the number 5 rebounding team in basketball overall. They're the 30th best basketball team rebounding in clutch time. That's pretty crazy to go from 5 to dead fucking last in the first, 40-something minutes to the last 5. That's embarrassing. That's very bad. I think that's a mental thing. Some of it's luck. But, like, obviously the possession that did them in, the possession that we're all thinking about, is that the one that followed the Dante 3. Dante DiVincenzo knocks down the three-pointer, pulls the Knicks within 1 point. It's 121-120 Dallas with about a minute and change left. Dallas comes down the other end. Josh Green misses a three-pointer. Tim Hardaway Jr. grabs the offensive rebound. Then Tim Hardaway Jr. misses a jump shot. Powell grabs the offensive rebound. Goes back to THJ. THJ misses a 3. Then he grabs his own rebound. And then you get the nail in the coffin where it goes back out to Josh Green. And he knocks down the open 3. That puts Dallas up 4 points. 27 seconds left, and that was it. The fat bitch sang. I watched the clip over a couple times, and I have the same opinion on it as I did the first time. I thought all 3 of iHeart, Randall, and Dante didn't execute properly. I thought it was pretty pathetic by Randall and Dante off of the first miss. If you go back and watch, both of them are right under the basket while iHeart closed. And then I thought it was pretty pathetic by Randall on the second miss as well to not grab that rebound. Dante DiVincenzo maybe could have grabbed that 50-50 ball. I thought the effort was there. But the third offensive rebound, I thought everybody. I thought Randall and iHeart were right under the basket boxing out Powell and Green. I thought they should have absolutely had that. And then Dante, who was kind of in the middle, right on top of the semicircle, did a very poor job of boxing out Jones Jr., so he lets him inside, and I think that's who ended up getting the board. He tips it out. And it's just like, yeah, these are moments where you realize, well, we do miss Mitchell Robinson. We're kind of fortunate we didn't get that disabled Dave money, that he might come back. Because that's a possession where I definitely see Mitchell Robinson coming up with the board there. To see that happen was just totally demoralizing given the amazing fight they showed in those minutes leading up to that possession. That was the game right there. That was the game ender. If the Knicks get one of those rebounds, if they just get one of those rebounds there is no doubt in my mind they win that game last night. Because that's the storyline of this team the last 2 seasons. They've found ways to come back and win games consistently that they had no business winning. And that was one of them. But they did not grab that board. So it wasn't one of them. And yeah, like, lastly on the defense, this is going to segue into our nightly Thibs topic because there were a few things I didn't like regarding Thibs' decisions last night. But defensively, it's like, why wait so long? Right? I think that's the question everybody wants to know. I don't know what he said in the postgame. I skipped the postgame. I have no idea what his explanation was, but why wait so long? We're going to talk about that when we return from our second break here on BD4. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
You can also find us on social media. If you'd like, you can follow BD4 on Facebook, and we're at BD4Pod on both Instagram and Twitter. We appreciate you helping us grow more and more every day. Let's get back to it.
Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. Episode 608 of the podcast. Thank you for tuning into BD4. Thank you for making this a part of your day and listening to the show. Maybe you're watching the video edit of this podcast. Last night, I think the first thing you can kill Thibs for is, listen, Kyrie Irving goes for 44 points, I think it was. He shoots 15 out of 26 from the field. The Knicks didn't send help to Kyrie until it was way too late in the fourth quarter. This was particularly frustrating because Dallas had role players out there on the floor too. They weren't sending any doubles. The Knicks finally started sending doubles when they sent Randall off of Derrick Jones to trap on Kyrie, and they kind of funneled the ball to Dallas's role players. But this wasn't until, I want to say, less than 5 minutes left. That portion of the game comes. they finally start sending doubles. And I think the only points Kyrie scored was at the free throw line at the very end of the game where he goes 2 out of 2. He turned it over once or twice, right? That led to one of those Brunson three-pointers in transition. He was forced to pass out of multiple traps and give up the ball, which was one of those. That was what led to that comeback and that rebounding possession. It's just like all game long, all night long, you were getting burnt in ISO. You were getting burnt on the wing, on the baseline. You're allowing Kyrie to get to his spots and pull up. It's like, why? And this was a game with no Luka Doncic. This was the perfect game to double. I just don't understand when you got OG Anunoby here. Now you can run more versatile lineups with these 3-wing lineups out there. Use that. Double. Send help from the back line. Send help from the weak side off of one of their poor 3-point shooters. They don't have the greatest role players in the world. You could have afforded it. Luka Doncic was, once again, not on the floor. I just didn't understand why it took them as long as it did to double. Again, I don't know what Thibs' explanation was in the postgame. I don't know if I hear it that it'll make me any happier. I doubt it. Maybe this is an episode that, once again, I get 8 billion subscribers overnight because I'm criticizing Thibs again. Knicks fans love that. Again, thank you all for coming last week. Like, I can't stress enough how awesome that made me feel. Getting that abundance of subscribers overnight because of that Thibodeau episode where I shit on him for not playing quickly. RIP quickly. Love the Players Tribune article. I read some of it. Anyways, that was the first thing that very much bothered me regarding Thibodeau last night. Now, I'm also kind of getting tired of Tom Thibodeau leaning into the Josh Hart minutes as much as he does. Again, a tired talking point because we beat this dead horse time and time again. But as much as it keeps happening, we have nothing else to talk about. And I understand the logic, right? Thibs doesn't like those 3-guard lineups. He prefers size and defense. Always will, forever will. But, like, I just wish he didn't fall in love with those Josh Hart lineups in the fourth quarter and at certain parts of any game. Like, you're losing creativity with Dante and Grimes off the floor. You know, and they've been such a crucial part to your offense this season, especially lately with Grimes. Dante's been nails all year. Josh Hart, last night, I don't think he deserved to be playing minutes over Grimes. I thought he was abysmal. The spacing remains a problem. The defense doesn't respect his jumper. I thought there were more moments where he was scared to shoot the open look, passing up. Defensively, he was part of that, giving too much airspace, backing up off on defense. And I like Josh Hart, but like, you know, you can't help but to go back to that $18 million salary that he's making now and just be like, well, this is an intangibles guard. What were we thinking? You might not be able to get the same hustle from a lot of guys in this league, but I'm sorry. I'll pay a little less for less hustle, but someone who can give me a little bit more offensively in the half court. The guy is totally useless in the half court when he's playing with hesitancy and when he's not with certain lineups. Like, they just don't, the defense just doesn't, and I keep going back to that Miami series, but I mean, what else do you have to look at? Ever since then, it's been happening. The defense just does not respect him. They ignore him, and that makes life difficult for a lot of other guys. You can try to hide him in the weak side, get him away from the action. You got to do so many things with him in the half court because he's such a detriment when his shot's not there and when he's afraid. And Grimes last night had another good shooting game. He had a good shooting game last night. He's a young player who's showing improvement, and you would like for him to get more than 12, 15 minutes. 9 points last night. He shot 3 of 6 from 3. He had 3 assists. He had a nice 2-man game with Precious Achiuwa last night. But he played just 15 minutes. I don't want this to become another Quickly thing, the new Quickly thing, but Josh Hart's kind of been an issue all year for me. And I know the numbers, the net rating, the plus-minus bullshit, like all that. You can't really argue against it. He plays and they win, and they play good when he's on the floor. Sometimes I feel like that's very deceiving because of who he's playing with. And like, I just feel like he's not he's a replaceable player. Unfortunately, that salary, that contract extension means he can't be moved until the summer. So I don't know. It's just I'd rather another wing or guard who could actually give you more offense. Now that OG's here, just redundant. But like at the same time, maybe this issue goes away if the Knicks get another creator, right? And it's like the amount of, like, listen, I like Deuce McBride. Why are we acting on Twitter like we don't need another creator whenever he has a decent game? Like, you people and your love for role players sometimes, the amount of people I saw advocating for Deuce McBride to be the Knicks' backup point guard the rest of the way after the last couple of nights, unfucking fathomable. Like, it's part of the reason why I don't like to use Twitter. Deuce was bad last night, and he'll be bad more with some good sprinkled in. That's just who he is. He's not your guy. When it comes to offense, more times than not, he's probably not going to be that guy. He was bad last night at point. There were back-to-back possessions in the fourth quarter where he was just not quick enough to get the Knicks into sets. There were so many just mind-numbing moments. It's just late shot clock decisions, losing track of the shot clock. That cannot happen from your point guard. And I know, like, if the Knicks had a real point guard out there, not in, let's be honest, he's an off-ball wing inside of a point guard's frame, then, you know, one who can run basic pick and roll, knock down shots when the defense goes under, then the Knicks might have a different result last night. They might have out-offensed Dallas's offense, you know. But I don't think doing this with Deuce the rest of the way is sustainable. You're seeing more and more dry spells in the offense at moments throughout these games. And it's because the Knicks don't have creators anymore outside of Brunson and Randall. They lost those two to Canada. And Canada has taken loss after loss. But I think they're playing well. And I love OG Anunoby, but he's not a guy who can create, obviously. Right? In the limited on-ball reps that you've seen from him so far as a Knick, he's shown you, very weak shot creating ability, not much of a handle. He can't create space on the ball. That last three-pointer he took, he was shooting off movement. He's not going to be doing that much. That's not a strength of his. There was another possession, I think it was earlier in the fourth quarter, where OG comes off an iHeart screen. He curls off it to get downhill, and he just stops short of the nail. And then because of this, iHeart couldn't roll effectively with the defense up. Not to mention he misses a wide open Grimes on the strong side wing and ends up turning it over. And just anytime he gets the ball, he's not really, maybe he's still trying to learn the playbook. Again, he kind of knows the playbook already, being the whole lawsuit thing. But again, I'm not going to blame OG Anunoby here. I'm just not having a backup point guard at the moment hurts, right? And it feels silly to complain about the Knicks offense because they scored 124 points last night. That's good. They're still top offense in the NBA. Overall in the season, they've got the 9th best offense. Pre-trade, they were 10th. Post-trade, they've been 6th. So, the offense is continuing to get the job done no matter how you butter knife it. The concern with the offense is just the sustainability. Is this tenable? How much longer can this go on where you're relying on Brunson and Randall as much as the Knicks have been relying on them in these last 6 games? Another night last night where they got to combine for over 60 points for the Knicks to have a shot. Randall had to go off in the third. Brunson had to do his thing in the final minutes of the fourth. another night where each of them have to play 37 to 40 minutes. You could see how gassed Julius was late in the third quarter. After all he had to do, you could see how tired he was. And I'm not blaming Tom Thibodeau because you got to win the game. But what happens when you play against a top half-court defense like Boston, like Orlando, Minnesota, like when they throw traps at you, when they use length, when they double, when they blitz at the level, they take away those pull-up threes that Brunson likes off high pick and roll. Will the Knicks be able to produce in those games? Those are important games. 1 or 2 games in the Eastern Conference changes the entire playoff picture. Will it produce in the playoffs? Because without a secondary playmaker with the bench unit, how's that going to work in a playoff round? Look at what happened last season. Look at what happened against Miami. The Knicks were a top 4 offense in the regular season. That went away in the playoffs. It was just Brunson with some good RJ games. So I think that trade needs to come, and it will. They cut Taj Gibson, so that's a roster spot they're opening up, and you have to believe they're going to use Fournier's salary. But until then, it's like I got some concerns. Fortunately, we're running into a very soft schedule this month between now and the deadline, really. So that's good, but it needs to happen. And I've got my same opinion on who I think it should be. I've got it narrowed down to basically 2 guys. I think we brought this up before, but Malcolm Brogdon I think is still my preference. I think he fits on this team perfectly. He can play on or off ball. He can play with both units. Give that bench unit a spark. That's what you need. Most importantly, what comes with Malcolm Brogdon is that you be giving the Blazers Fournier's $19 million salary and replacing it with $22 million, which helps you in that star deal this summer, right? To be able to flip Malcolm Brogdon for a star. And that's kind of what pains me with Tyus Jones. The fact that Tyus Jones, who's my second preference, is expiring, that hurts. Because I like Tyus Jones a lot. I love his fit. He's a pick and roll point guard who can drive and kick. And that's Tom Thibodeau's offense right there to a T. But you can't use him in the summer because you won't have him. Unless, obviously, you extend him. But even then, like, he's Tyus Jones. He's not going to make salary match your money. Those are kind of my 2 preferences, with Malcolm Brogdon being the number 1 preference. The DeJounte thing, I've kind of not as for as I initially was when I first heard the news, but I'm not against it. I think the contract is something you can still flip. I'm not concerned with him and Brunson playing together as much as others may be. I think that DeJounte having issues playing alongside Trae Young is more on Trae Young. Everyone knows Trae Young and his antics and his usage and his style of play. DeJounte's a kid who came from San Antonio's system. I think the guy knows how to play off ball. And Brunson, to me, has played very good basketball off the ball this season with Randall. Like, how many times do you hear me praise him for relocating when Randall has the ball in the lane? And how many times do we talk about his improvement, not just on his pull-ups, but in catch and shoot? He's playing off ball a lot more, especially when he and Quickly ran together. And remember, Brunson played next to Luka Doncic, another very ball-dominant as hell wing player. So I'm not concerned there. My concerns with DeJounte are more, for one, on the court regarding his play style. It's not play style, his size. It's his size. All right. I think he's long. He's got wingspan, and that's why his point of attack defense is very solid. But he's not very big. Okay, he's 180 pounds soaking wet, and his off-ball defense, from what I hear, is not very good. I don't know that I want the Knicks to get smaller, and I feel like they will get smaller in this deal because Grimes will most likely be a part of it, I would think. And, it's the asking price. Atlanta gave up 3 unprotected in a swap, was it? what are the Knicks going to have to give up? Is it possible to do it with 2 picks? Maybe an unprotected and a protected? Is that even worth it? Like, I'd rather pay a lesser price, save capital for this potential, Donovan Mitchell situation that might unfold in the summer, or whoever, someone on a contending team that has an early playoff exit. Stars are disgruntled all the time. I'd rather save capital for that future superstar deal, go after options like a Brogdon, go after options that will keep you liquid for the future. And I don't know that DeJounte Murray, the asking price will keep you. I feel like it's going to be a lot of picks. I have a bad feeling too, because I just saw a recent report, see if I can find it, that the Knicks are not only looking to make a deal with the Atlanta Hawks for DeJounte Murray, but I also saw they're asking around, they're exploring options in Detroit. That could mean bogey. But what scares me is like the article I saw. I didn't read it, so I shouldn't be talking about it. But like the featured image was Alec Burks, and he's a veteran on a team that he doesn't belong being on. And I'm like, well, you know how Tom Thibodeau works. He loves familiarity. The guy just brought in Taj Gibson off the couch to play backup center for them. I have a bad feeling. They brought back Noel, right? Like, I have a bad feeling Alec Burks is going to be the get just because he's a Thibs guy. And my God, that would be underwhelming as hell. The offense needs a punch, and I don't think Alec Burks is going to save that. But going back to needing offense, I guess this is going to lead to our next topic here. We brought up the other day, maybe it was the last episode, about OG Anunoby potentially getting more looks in this offense to help ease the workload on those two, Brunson and Randle. He wasn't featured a ton once again last night. 10 points, only took 10 shots, 1 of 6 from 3, so it wasn't great. And it's kind of the same opinion I had last time I talked about it. Like, maybe they can get him more involved. Sure. Like, I don't know. Like, run him some actions that free him up in the corners, right? Get him going downhill with his 6'8", 240-pound frame. Maybe you hit him off those 45 cuts or those cuts from the dunker spots. But again, it's like, aren't they kind of doing that right now? I feel like he's been cutting, and Ihart and Randle are finding him in the dunker spot. He's always in the corners, spacing out the floor, and Brunson has hit the weak side a lot. And I feel like that's just going to be how it is. That's Tom Thibodeau's system. Space out the floor and use the corners. OG Anunoby's best offensive weapon is that he's one of the game's elite corner shooters. And they've optimized the living shit out of that so far. So you're not going to get him looks like RJ and Quickly we're getting, because that's not who OG fits this team because he's a low usage guy who doesn't need the ball. Right? The starting lineup gels exactly as it is. I don't know that you want to touch that. I don't know that you want to ruin what you have by trying to force him the ball. It's very Brunson, Randle reliant, and it's going to continue to be that way. Dante DiVincenzo is the next in the pecking order now. Do you want the scoring to come from the bench? I think that's what we need to focus on. Right? Just get the scoring punch off the bench. Get that backup point guard, that shooting guard, someone to run the second unit. I don't think OG Anunoby is an offensive concern for me. I think he's going to be what he's always been. And like I said, probably expect a little bit less usage now that he's playing alongside 2 ball-dominant players. Speaking of, Jalen Brunson, I'm going to hand him the game ball from last night.
Bing bang.
I hate doing it in a loss. Nobody deserves the game ball. I shouldn't even call it that, but we like to count at the end of the season who has as many, who has the most, who's like the MVP of the team, and every game counts. So Jalen Brunson last night, 30 points, 8 assists, 4 more turnovers, 10 of 22 shooting, 2 of 6 from 3. He was 8 of 9 at the line. He wasn't amazing. He was picked on defensively throughout the game. That's a recurring issue. I thought he had some poor shot selection. Specifically, I thought he forced it a lot in the first quarter. Some bad decisions. Excuse me. But I'm giving him the award because he did hit big shots down the stretch, and that's all I really give a shit about. He had a number of baskets. The transition Euro finish to bring the Knicks within 10 points at the 4-minute mark. He had the transition corner three-pointer to bring them within 5 at 2 minutes. And then he had the and one take, very impressive take, to bring the Knicks within 4 points at 1:45 or whatever it was. And that's what superstars do, right? They come through down the stretch even when they're having a bad night. Brunson entered the fourth quarter with 18 points on just 5 of 14 shooting. Ends the night shooting 46% overall. So, speaking of Jalen Brunson, second returns came in on the All-Star voting. Brunson's got 14 game balls on the year, by the way. The returns came in for the second time. They came back. And Brunson is still sixth. I still disagree with that. It's Tyrese Maxey, Donovan Mitchell, Dame Lillard, Trae Young, and Tyrese Halliburton. I think the one that's insane to me is Trae Young. Look at his numbers, like his efficiency numbers. Look at his defense. Look at his team success. Look at every time Brunson faces Trae Young. Who performs better? Brunson does. Who wins? Brunson does. I'm not taking 28 and 11 on mediocre chucking, disgraceful defensive engagement, a terrible 11 seed team below 500 who is considering selling off, a guy who gets bitched every single time he plays Brunson in the Knicks. I'm not taking that guy over 26 and 7 on very efficient shooting, whose defense isn't great, but better than Trae Young. This guy takes charges every night. He sacrifices his body, does a nice job on the glass as the low man, stunts over to jaw charge. Like he makes effort. He makes effort. I don't think he's better. I can't believe people still think he's better than Jalen Brunson after what happened last postseason with Brunson. Like, he showed so many people so many things, especially Mitchell. Like, even better than Mitchell, you can make a case. People don't respect Jalen Brunson, and it's a shame. Randall is now in. He's at number 8. I think that's fair. Bam, KP, Brown, Butler, Tatum, and Embiid and Giannis are all ahead of him. They're all having better seasons. But this all said, like, I don't know why I'm sitting here complaining and bitching about this because I don't vote on this stuff anyway. So there you go. I'm a hypocrite. I tried today. I don't know if it went through. I tried a number of times, but I don't think it worked. So I just gave up. I don't know. People hate me because I don't vote for fucking NBA All-Stars. If you go to the bench, I thought Precious Achiuwa was good.
Bing bang.
I liked Precious's minutes last night. 7 points, 3 of 3 from the field, 6 rebounds, 1 steal, 16 minutes played. I thought he gave the Knicks instant energy when he checked in second quarter. He had a big second quarter. Give them some offense right away. He ran some basic pick and roll with the second unit. Ran a 3-5 pick and roll with Josh Hart. Ran a 2-5 with Quentin Grimes. Grimes hit him on a cut from the short corner with a pocket pass. He looked good offensively. Defensively, you saw some good defense. His switchability proved to be very helpful. I thought he did an excellent job switching on to Kyrie in the second quarter, holding him quiet there. It was really about the only time in the game where Kyrie didn't go off was when Thibs had Precious switching onto him. When he had Precious switching, Kyrie was held quiet. So I thought he did a nice job. I thought he rebounded pretty well. That was nice to see. I thought he was good. Obviously, other than the pass heard around the world, that's probably going to be on Shaq and a Fool next week. That was pretty brutal. I don't know what he was thinking. He was on the ground. He just throws it without even looking. I think he was trying to get it to Brunson. It was ugly. but whatever. Good game for him. That's his first award as a Knick. And that's it. Up next, Memphis. The Knicks are allowed this loss. Dallas is a tough team, Luka or not. You just won 5 in a row. I wish we could see more against top competition from the Knicks. I know they get the job done against bums. They are a great 14-1 against sub 500. But you go to the other side, they're all 8-15. That means, right? That would mean 8-15 against above 500 clubs. That's terrible. Very fucking terrible. Then again, it's like if they were better against above 500 teams, what are we looking at? A 30-8 team? That's not them yet. So I guess you live with it. I don't want to lose tomorrow. Memphis, you have to grab because they're a terrible team. They're without Ja Morant. And if you let those bums beat you, then you're heading home to face Orlando, and now you're on the risk of losing 3 straight and dropping in the seedings even more. So, win. Just win. That cures everything. And that's it. We'll head to our final break, get back, wrap it up with our trivia. Stay with us here. Episode 608 of BD4. Be right back.
If you have time in the day or maybe just prefer old-fashioned reading over listening, then you can always follow along and subscribe to BD4 Blog by going to bd4blog.com. We're not on there as often, but when we do post, it's just as entertaining, opinionated, and passionate as we are on this podcast. Thank you so much. And let's keep on with the show.
Studio 69 Productions is a podcast production agency created by Leo Rodriguez to allow content creators to market their podcast. It's an online platform that will market your podcast or any other project that you're working on. Get in touch with Leo Rodriguez from Studio 69 Productions. You can find Studio 69 Productions on Instagram at Studio69NJ. Studio 69 Productions, where dreams are heard and born. All right, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to episode 608 of BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We do Yanks every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion. I appreciate everybody stopping by. I'm your host, RJ, and if you are new to the podcast, be sure to subscribe to the show. We are on many platforms, Apple Podcasts. You can listen to us on there, give us a 5-star rating and review. You can also watch the video edit of this podcast over on Spotify and YouTube. We're over there as well. So with that said, let's not waste any more time. Let's get to the trivia, wrap this thing up. Okay, so for this episode 608, our trivia question of the day is, it's a true or false question. True or false, the Knicks' all-time regular season record against the Dallas Mavericks is above 500. Is that true or false? The Knicks' all-time regular season record against the Dallas Mavericks is above 500. So let me know the answer wherever you can reach me. If you get the answer correct, I'll give you a shout out in the next episode. That's it for this one. I appreciate everybody who tuned in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And I will see you in I've said episode 5 a million times ever since we hit the 600s. I'm having trouble saying 6. It's crazy. We are 608 in. I'll see you in 609, where I'm going to try my best to get a Yankees episode out soon to talk about everything that went down last night. Not very happy about it. Not the signing itself, but we'll talk all about this stuff. All right. We'll talk all about this stuff hopefully soon. But if I don't talk Yankees in 609, I'll definitely be talking Knicks in 609 when we go and recap Knicks Memphis. As for this episode, that's all we got. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you then. Later. This episode was brought to you by Anchor.
Hey there! If you stayed the entire way through, we thank you immensely for it. We hope you enjoyed this podcast and that you come back for the next episode real soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, download these episodes, and share them with your friends as well. BD4 is a 5-star podcast simply because of you. And we'd like to keep it that way. Have a wonderful day. Go Yankees and go Knicks!